Taylor on Plato. 31. 39. Contents. Section. Ontological principle. Entities and process. Actual entities and decision. Stubborn fact. 3. Platonic form, idea, essence of eternal object, potentiality and givenness, exclusiveness of the given, subject superject, becoming and being, evaporation of indetermination and concrescence, satisfaction determinate and exclusive, concrescence dipolar, potentiality, givenness, impossibility, subsistence. IV. Actual occasions internally determined, T externally free, course of history not necessary, no perfection, efficient causation and final reaction, God's primordial freedom, each concrescence between definite free initiation and definite free conclusion, the former macrocosmic, the latter microcosmic. P. Universals and particulars, unsuitable terms with false implication, illustration from also Hume, Descartes alternative doctrine, relativo, ectiva, inspectio, intuitio, judicium, word not describable in terms of subject and predicate, substance and quality, particular and universal relativity. P. Locke's essay, T agreement of organic philosophy with it. Substitute. Experience. Understanding. Prehensions. Locke's two doctrines of ideas, ideas of particular things, representative theory of perception, logical simplicity and genetic priority not to be identified, substance, exterior things, solidarity of the universe. 7. Locke's doctrine of power, power and substance, causal objectification and presentational objectification, change means adventures of eternal objects, real essence, abstract essence, doctrine of organism and generation of actual entities. Chapter 2. The extensive continuum. I. Continuum and real potentiality, atomized by actual occasions, how the continuum is experienced, presentational immediacy, sensa, real chair and chair implexingression of sensa. 2. General potentiality and real potentiality, standpoints of actual occasions, determined by initial phase of subjective aim, extensive relationships, the ethical theory of time, Zeno, William James. 3. Newton's Scholium. 1961. XX. Section. Contents. IV. Newton's Scholium. Comparison with philosophy of organism and with Descartes. Witness of the body. Status of the body in the actual world. Ontological status of space for Newton, Descartes and the organic philosophy. P. Indifferentiated endurance and the passivity of substance, source of errors. P. Summary. Chapter 3. The order of nature. I. Order and givenness contrasted. The foics of order, attainment of end, war of feeling, causa sui. 2. Society. Defining characteristic and genetic inheritance, environment, social and permissive, cosmic epoch, social hierarchy. 3. Evolution of societies, the chaos, the Timaeus, the Scholium, Milton. IV. Societies in this cosmic epoch, the extensive society, the geometric society, electrosociety, society, waves, electrons, protons. P. Enduring objects, corpuscular societies, structured societies. P. Stability, specialization. 7. Problem of stabilization, exclusion of detail, conceptual initiative, life. 8. Inorganic apparatus for life. X. Life a reaction against society, originality. X. Life and food, life in empty space, catalytic agent. 11. Living persons, canalization of life, dominant personality. Only partial. 83. Chapter IV, Organisms and Environment. 110. I. On actual occasions. Narrowness and width, dependent on societies, orderly element, chaos, triviality, orderliness, depth, triviality, vagueness, narrowness, width, incompatibility, contrast, triviality, excessive differentiation, vagueness, excessive identification, vagueness, narrowness, depth, coordination of chaos, vagueness, narrowness, width. 2. Intensity, philosophy of organism, Kant, Locke. 3. Sensa, lowest category of eternal objects. Definition, sensa, contrasts of, intensity, contrasts in high and low categories, patterns, eternal objects, simplicity, complexity, experienced emotionally. Contents. Section. IV. Transmission, diverse routes, inhibitions, intensification, vector character, form of energy, physical science. P. Environmental data as in perception, visual perception, most sophisticated form, originated by antecedent state of animal body, Hume, animal body and external environment, amplifier, TV. Perception and animal body, causal efficacy. 7. Causal efficacy, viscera, presentational immediacy, delusive perceptions, secondary qualities, extension, witness of body, Hume, Kant. 8. Loci disclosed by perception, contemporary region, causal future, immediate present, unison of becoming, concrescent unison, differentiation between immediate present and presented duration, presented locus. X. Presented locus in unison of becoming, presented locus, systematic relation to animal body, strains, independence of external contemporary happenings, straight lines, measurement, unison of becoming, duration. Summary. Chapter V, Locke and Hume. I. Hume, perception, substance, principle of union, ideas, copies of impressions, imaginative freedom. 2. Hume and repetition, effect, cause and effect, memory, force and vivacity. 3. Time, Hume, Descartes, independence of successive occasions, objective immortality. IV. Influence of subject-predicate notion, Hume, Descartes. Locke, particular existence. P. Locke and Locke. Prosology, morphology, false derivation of emotional feelings, sensationalist doctrine, Santayana. Chapter V. From Descartes to Kant. I. Descartes. 3 kinds of substance. Extended, mental, gods, three kinds of change, of accidents, origination, cessation, accidental representative ideas, unessential experience of external W or it. 2. Locke, empiricism, adequacy, inconsistency, particular existence, substance, power, relativity, perpetually perishing. 3. Analogy and contrast with philosophy of organism. IV. Human process, Kant, Santayana. P. Contrasted procedures of philosophy of organism and Kant. 21. 144. XXII. Contents. Chapter 7. The Subjectivist Principle. Section I. The Subjectivist Principle and the Sensationalist Principle. The sensationalist doctrine combines both. Locke, Room, Kant, statement of the principles, the three premises for the subjectivist philosophy of organism denies the two principles and the three premises. Descartes is gray, stone is gray, substance and quality, organs of sensation. Descartes' subjectivist modification, perception of that stone is gray, failure to provide revised category. 2. Knowledge, its variations, vague negative perception, the general case, consciousness as the feeling of negation, novelty, consciousness a subjective form, only present in late derivative phases of complex integrations, consciousness only illuminates the subjective data, philosophy misled by clearness and distinctness. 3. Primitive type of physical experience is emotional, vector transmission of feeling, pulses of emotion, wavelength, human emotion is interpreted emotion, not very emotional feeling. IV. Decision regulator of eternal objects, old meeting new, the three phases of feeling, T-conformal, conceptual, comparative, eternal objects and subjective forms, continuity of the phases, objective unity. D. Reformed subjectivist principle is another statement of principle of relativity, processes the becoming of experience and principle accepted. This method only errs in detail. Law, birth, causation, no help. Modern philosophy uses wrong categories, two misconceptions, T.I. vacuous actuality, E. inherence of quality in substance. Chapter 8. Symbolic reference. I. Two pure modes of perception, symbolic, common ground, integration, originative freedom, error, common ground, presented locus, geometrical indistinctness in mode of causal efficacy, exceptions, animal body, witness of common ground, common sensa, modern empiricism, make-believe, Hume, sensa derived from efficacy of body, projection. 3. Mistaken primacy of presentational immediacy, discussion, causal efficacy primitive. 157. 168. Contents. Section I. Further discussion, causation and sense perception. B. Comparison of modes, integration and symbolic reference. P. Principles of symbolism, language. Chapter X. The proposition street. I. Impure prehensions by integration of pure conceptual and pure physical purposes and propositions discriminating, not primarily for judgment, worse for feeling, objective ruler, final cause, general and singular propositions, logical subjects, complex predicate, propositions true or false, lure to novelty, felt, contrary, is consciousness in germ, judgment and entertainment, graded envisagement. 2. Truth and falsehood, experiential togetherness of propositions and fact, correspondence and coherence theory, propositions true or false, judgments correct or incorrect, intuitive and derivative judgments, logic concerned with derivative judgments, error. 3. Systematic background presupposed by each proposition, relations, indicative systems of relations, propositions and indicative systems, illustration, inadequacy of words. IV. Metaphysical propositions, 1 and 1 make 2. V. Induction, probability, statistical theory, ground, sampling, finite numbers. V. Suppressed premises in induction, presupposition of definite type of actuality requiring definite type of environment, wider inductions invalid, statistical probability within relevant environment. 7. Objectification samples environment. 8. Alternative non-statistical ground, graduated appetition, primordial nature of God, secularization of concept of God's functions. Chapter X. Process. I. Fluency and permanence, generation and substance, spatialization, 2 kinds of fluency, T macroscopic and microscopic to occasion with occasion and within each occasion. 2. Concrescence, novelty, actuality, microscopic concrescence. 3. 3 stages of microscopic concrescence. Vector characters indicate macroscopic transition, emotion, and subjective form generally, is scalar in microscopic origination and is the datum for macroscopic transition. XXIII 184 208 24 Section Content Phases of microscopic concrescence. P. Summary. Part 3 The theory of prehensions. CHAP1ERI. The theory of feeling street. I. Genetic and morphological analysis. Genetic consideration is analysis of the concrestual entity formulator. Morphological analysis is analysis of the actual entity as concrete, spatialized, active. T2. Finite truth, division into prehensions, succession of phases, ensions and prehensions in formation, 5 factors, subject, initial data, elimination, objective datum, subjective form, feeling is determinate. 3. Feeling cannot be abstracted. Subject, aim at the feeler, final cause, causa sui. IV. Categories of subjective unity, of entity, of objective diversity. P. Category of subjective unity. The one subject is the final end conditioning each feeling, episode in self-production, pre-established harmony, self-consistency of a proposition, subjective aim, category of objective identity, one thing has one role, one ground of incompatibility, category of objective diversity, no diverse elements with identity of function, another gradable incompatibility. B. World as a transmitting medium, explanation, negative prehensions, with subjective forms. 7. Application of the category. 8. Application continued, TX. Nexes. X. Subjective forms. Classification of feelings according to data. Simple physical feelings, conceptual feelings, subjective forms not determined by data, conditioned by them. 11. Subjective form, qualitative pattern, quantitative pattern, intensity, audition of sound. 12. Prehensions not atomic, mutual sensitivity, indefinite number of prehensions, prehensions as components in the satisfaction and their genetic growth, justification of the 219. Contents. Section. Analysis of the satisfaction, 8th and 9th categories of explanation. Chapter 2. The primary feelings. I. Simple physical feeling. Initial datum is one actual entity. Objective datum is one feeling entertained by that one actual entity. Active causation. Objective datum the cause. Simple physical feeling the effect. Synonymously, causal feelings. Primitive active perception. Initial datum is perceive. Objective datum is the perspective, in general not conscious perception. Reason for perspective, vector transmission of feeling, reenaction, conformal, irreversibility of time, lock, eternal objects relational, two-way role, vector transference, reproduction, permanence, quanta of feeling transferred, quantum theory and physical memory, atomism, continuity, causation, memory, perception, quality, quantity, extension. 2. Conceptual feelings, positive and negative prehensions, creative urge dipolar, datum is an eternal object, exclusiveness of eternal objectness, definiteness, incompatibility. 3. Subjective form of conceptual prehension is valuation, integration introduces intuition into impaired feelings, intensiveness, 3 characteristics of valuation, mutual sensitivity of subjective forms, determinant of procedure of determinant of intensive emphasis. IV. Consciousness as subjective form, requires its peculiar datum, recollection, Plato, Hume, conscious feelings always impair, requires integration of physical and conceptual feelings, affirmation and negative contrast, not all impaired feelings conscious. Chapter 3. The transmission of feelings. I. Ontological principle, determination of initiation of failing, phases of concrescence, God, inexorable valuation, subjective aim, self-determination imaginative in origin, reenaction. 2. Pure physical feelings, hybrid physical feelings, hybrid feelings transmuted into pure physical feelings, a disastrous separation of body and mind avoided, Hume's principle, hybrid feelings with God as datum. 25. 236, 140, 144. 26. Section. Contents. 3. Application of first categorical obligation. Supplementizing from conceptual origination. Application of fourth and fifth categorical obligations. Conceptual reversion. Ground of identity. Aim at contrast. IV. Transmutation. Feeling and nexus as one. Transmuted physical feeling. Role of impartial conceptual feeling in transmutation. Category of transmutation. Further explanations. Modifying physical feelings. Negative prehensions important. P. Subjective harmony. The seventh categorial obligation. Chapter IV. Propositions and feelings. 256. I. Consciousness. Propositional feelings, not necessarily conscious. Propositional feeling is product of integration of physical feeling with a conceptual feeling. Eternal objects tell no tales of actual occasions. Propositions are tales that might bet told of logical subjects. Proposition, true or false, tells no tales about itself, awaits reason. Conceptual feeling provides predicative pattern. Physical feeling provides logical subjects. Integration, indication of logical subjects. Element, givenness required for truth and falsehood. 2. Proposition not necessarily judged. Propositional feelings not necessarily conscious. New propositions arise, possible percipient subjects within the scope of a proposition. 3. Origination of propositional feeling. 4 or 5 stages. Indicative feeling, physical recognition, predicative pattern predicative feeling, propositional feeling integral of indicative and predicative feelings. IV. Subjective forms of propositional feelings, dependent on phases of origination, case of identity of indicative feeling with the physical recognition, perceptive feelings, case of diversity, imaginative feelings, distinction not necessary, the species of perceptive feelings, authentic, direct authentic, indirect authentic, unauthentic, tied imagination. P. Imaginative feelings, indicative feeling and physical recognition diverse, pre-imagination, subjective form depends on origination, valuation rather than consciousness, lure to creative emergence, criticism of physical feelings, truth, critical conditions. P. Origination of the necessary train of feelings. Contents. Chapter V. The higher phases of experience. Section I. Comparative feelings, conscious perceptions, physical purposes more primitive than propositional feelings. 2. Intellectual feelings, in proposition of propositional feeling with physical feeling of including the logical subjects. Category of objective identity, affirmation negation contrast, consciousness as a subjective form. 3. Belief, certainty, lock, admission, intuition. IV. Conscious perception, recapitulation of origin, direct and indirect authentic feelings, unauthentic feelings, transmutation, perceptive error, novelty, tests, analysis of origination, tests fallible. P. Judgment, yes form, no form, suspense form, in yes of patterns, in no form diversity and incompatibility, in suspense form diversity and compatibility, intuitive judgment, conscious perception. P. Affirmative intuitive judgment analogous to conscious perception, difference explained, inferential judgment, divergence from Locke's nomenclature, suspended judgment. 7. Physical purposes, primitive type of physical feeling, retaining valuation and purpose, eliminating indeterminateness of complex eternal object, responsive reenaction, decision. 8. Second species of physical purposes, reversion involved. Eighth categorical obligation, subjective intensity, immediate subject, relevant future, balance, condition.